This money has created a problem. Both my parents died recently. I'm an adult child. I have received an inheritance of about £700,000, which, for the US people, is about $900,000. I have always been really worried about money, and this finally released me. I had a high-paying job I hated, and I don't need it anymore. If I were single, I would buy a small place for about £150,000 to £200,000, invest the rest, and make day-to-day money from a small but profitable business idea which I really think I can make work. I would also travel, which I would love to do. My boyfriend, we have talked about getting married for a long time, wants me to use $400,000 of this on a house deposit. We need a big expensive house, at least $1 million, because it's an expensive area and he wants to live near his kids. He's going through a divorce. We can't get a lower deposit apparently, as he already has a mortgage and a higher deposit means lower monthly repayments. If it were up to me, I wouldn't spend this much on a house, but if I want to be with him, I need to live in this expensive area to be near his kids. I also have a lifelong fear of getting a mortgage and committing to that amount of money obligation. I've always wanted to buy a home outright, which is unconventional, but technically I can do that now. But in order to stay with him, I need to get into a mortgage, as he wants to own a home with me. He currently lives in a rented house. The problem is that my mother, who died after my father, explicitly told me to not spend a large portion of her inheritance on him, or a home with him. He and I have had a very rocky relationship, which she wasn't mad about. Although life is complex, most of our problems were caused by me being difficult. He knows my mother asked me this, and I made her a promise. This was in the few days before her death. In order not to break the promise, I would need to make $800,000 in the next 18 months in order to have enough after tax for the deposit. I was looking forward to finally relaxing after busting my ass my whole life not doing this. I can't even get my head clear. I don't even know what I want. I think maybe I'm being unreasonable because if you marry someone, then you have to buy a home together. A £1 million home is all we can do because of the circumstances, and a $400,000 deposit is the only way we can afford it. And I'm the only one who can provide this money via inheritance or work. I guess I would rather build up a business over the next 6 years while we rent until I can afford to buy outright. Sounds unrealistic, but I know I can make this money. I don't find it difficult to make money. It just takes a bit of time. He doesn't want that and wants to move ASAP to a shared home. He himself makes good money, around £600,000, $750,000 a year. But 75% of that goes on tax and his ex-wife/kids. He can furnish monthly repayments but doesn't have the savings for a deposit. Apparently, we had a discussion a couple of months ago in which I promised to stump up the $400,000 for the deposit and put my name on the mortgage. I don't remember this. I can't see how I would agree to this. I think there is a misunderstanding. I agreed to pay the deposit, but naively thought this would only be $100,000. When he discovered last night I didn't mean $400,000, and that meant he couldn't move into his own place, he had a complete freakout and breakdown, and kept accusing me of breaking a promise. I didn't, believe me. I broke no promise because I never meant $400,000. I meant $100,000. I can't figure out if I'm the bad guy here. I don't want to break my promise to my mother on her deathbed. We ended up arguing all night for 9 hours and nobody got any sleep. We are not in the same location right now. I feel bad for him because he has this dream in his head of living in his own home soon, and I don't want to let him down. He hasn't had an easy time of things. Part of the problem is our relationship is not 100% rosy. We fell in love and he gave up a lot to be with me. But now we do have some serious sticking points. In an ideal world, I would live in the country, somewhere inexpensive, with a dog and a cat. He doesn't want these things. I would also be able to travel about 6 times a year, about a week at a time. This is too much for him. He doesn't want me to be away that long. I'm also not allowed to make new friends who are male, which feels oppressive. Though I wouldn't want him making new female friends, to be entirely honest. I don't know if I'd ban it. It's tough. We also argue a lot, and he had a few slip-ups with supporting me adequately after my parents' death. I told him what he could do to support me, and he never did it. As someone who needs a lot of alone time, I dread the prospect of alone time vacations being taken from me. It never really feels like he is putting me first, but I'm sure he feels that way about me too. While we discussed marriage from the start, he seems to only want to actually propose now I have allegedly pledged this $400,000. Though he's not a total gold digger, as he did break up with me earlier this year in spite of knowing about the inheritance. The two things keeping me from ending it are the fact that I love him and the fact that I don't want to hurt him. Also, I am scared to be alone after my parents' death. I have friends, but it's not the same. I am attractive, and people say I'm a catch, but I feel like I'm 30 and have missed the boat for dating a normal guy. Maybe I need to be single forever. I don't want kids, by the way. I won't be able to live with the guilt if I broke up with him. I am absolutely terrible at band-aid decisions where I need to be decisive about something which would probably benefit me rather than drag on a miserable situation. If I hadn't been effectively managed out and a round of redundancies at my old job, I'd never have left that, even though I hated it, and leaving was one of the best things that ever happened to me. I just thought at this stage I'd be enjoying my inheritance a bit, traveling a bit, grieving, taking things easy, exploring hobbies, and gently setting up my new business, all with a supportive boyfriend. I didn't think I'd be scrambling to find 800,000 desperately. I'm constantly stressed and often ill from this relationship. So is he. Doesn't that make it a toxic relationship? But during our peace times, things are great, so maybe things can get better. It is so hard from the inside to make those changes. I just want to make a decision on the relationship, as the uncertainty is giving me colds, etc. My half-sister has a weird obsession with me. She stalks me on my social media profile and acts like a deranged ass. I'm pretty popular on Instagram, where I also post my art, so making it private is not an option. She is 17, and I haven't seen her in years. The last time I saw her, she was 12, and it was my grandfather's funeral. My biological father had an affair with one of my mom's friends when she was dying. It was sick, and my poor mom found out about it 5 days before she passed away. The other woman was already pregnant with my half-sister. I was 15 and old enough to know what that meant. I refused to live with my dad. Courts allowed it, and started living with my maternal grandparents. My 2 older siblings were in college, and they haven't talked to him in years. We chose to keep them out of my life, and we liked it that way. Whenever I, my husband, or my siblings make any sweet post, she literally spams the comments section with comments about us abandoning her and our biological father. I keep blocking her, but she comes back with new IDs every time. I definitely think she is not in a good mental place and needs help, possibly professional help. The last straw was on Mother's Day, when I tried to post a beautiful tribute to my mom. I posted many pictures. Some of those pictures were beautiful family pictures, and I edited my biological father out of them. She commented about me posting edited pics and abandoning our father. It was a long post, and she actually posted several old family pictures in her account. That post got a lot of attention, and people started asking me about it. Only this time, I didn't delete her comment or block her. I replied under her post and asked her to stay away from my life. All this time, I avoided a confrontation because I believed she was young and misled by her parents. But as a 17-year-old, she should know better. This was my reply. I don't know about others, but for me and my siblings, just because our biological father decided to have S with some rando and cheat on our dying mum, doesn't mean we owe anything to him or the result of his indiscretions. Please respect our boundaries and leave my family alone. You are old enough to understand this, and if it bothers you, consider therapy. This level of obsession with our lives is really unhealthy. I wish you and your family well. Am I the a-hole? I'm a 35-year-old guy, and I was lucky enough to marry my crush, 27 female, 2 years ago. We met at work where she was a receptionist for the big building my company is in. Anyways, she has 2 daughters, 6 and 7 years old. When I married my wife, I was a bit iffy at the idea of being a dad so fast and so suddenly to 2 kids that are mine. But I love my wife so much, I'm willing to sacrifice my man time and a portion of my salary to take care of the kids. To be honest, I've had my ups and downs with them, you know, kids. And sometimes I think I'd be happier going back to my lone wolf life. But I fully know that this is my life now, and I try my best to suck it up and do what I signed up for. Back to the story. I know the kid's dad had died only from my wife's words, and I've never had any reason to doubt that. It has been 2 or 3 months since she started convincing me that I should adopt them as a birthday gift for both of them. Their birthday happens in 2 consecutive days. Coincidence. I'd be fine with that. It's just paper for what I would do anyways. I agreed to that, and she said she'd get on with the documents. Well, fantastic, I thought. I like not having to do anything. What really got me suspicious is how she changed her behavior with her phone and laptop. She started putting the phone face down, and she created a totally different user for her laptop she switches to when she's with me. I thought she was cheating, so I did what every scumbag like me would. I spied on her. Long story short, I come to know by a very reliable source that her ex-husband isn't paying alimony anymore as he is in jail with no money to his account. The world crushed on me. First I thought the guy was dead. Now I discover he is alive, paying alimony to my wife's bank account while I was financially providing too. I confronted my wife, and she didn't deny any of it. She started crying, and she was adamant that she did that only for the kids' well-being. She was putting the alimony money her ex was giving her into an account for when the kids will be 18 years old. I have no proof of that. She also said that it was a while since she felt I should adopt them, as they love me and they look up to me. She was firm about stating that nothing happened with her ex-husband while she was with me. She said that her ex is dead for her by all means. She admitted that she lied, but for good purposes, as she was scared that a guy like me would be scared by her reckless past. That's not who she is anymore, as she is focused on family and on us. Now, I need to find out more about her ex-husband, that's for sure. I am also furious with my wife for not trusting me enough to come clean about her past. Meanwhile, will I be an asshole if I refuse to adopt the kids? They have a dad, and he's alive. And if I state that I will retract from them all the financial support, in case I decide to get a divorce. I have 2 children from a previous relationship, Danielle, 11, and Elliot, 7. My husband John loves them as his own, but also has a 15-year-old daughter, Alicia, from a previous relationship. We've been married 4 years, but I've only seen her a handful of times. Firstly, because she spends most of her time with her mother, and also she attends an elite boarding school for girls, so the opportunity to see her is very rare. Over the summer, me and the kids went on holiday to Spain for 3 weeks. John was supposed to come, but he was snowed under with work commitments. However, when he told Alicia, she said she's always wanted to go there, and she begged him to convince me to let her come, which I did. But her mom had to pay for her flight/place in the hotel. It all went well at first, but a problem started when it turned out Alicia didn't pack anywhere near 3 weeks' worth of clothing, meaning that initially she had to borrow some of mine, which were oversized, and when we went shopping, I couldn't afford anywhere near the sort of clothing she likes, and she cried at having to make do with cheap stuff. She then phoned her mom crying, saying I was being unfair to her for making her wear clothes that she wasn't used to. She also continuously tried to persuade me to buy her alcohol. We had another row when she met some boys from the same country as us in a restaurant/bar. She was cuddling with one of them, and when Elliot was tired and we needed to go home, she tried to stay with them and go back to where they were staying. As her guardian on the trip, I was not prepared to allow her to go home with a group of boys we'd never met in a foreign country. She threw a huge tantrum at me about this when we got home, saying what's the point in coming on holiday if I won't let her have fun? Finally, Alicia was sulking throughout the entire journey home, and took to trying to antagonize Danielle, asking her if she's ready to have no friends once she starts secondary school, calling her ugly and things like that. I stopped this immediately, and she sulked even more. When we got back, I told John how difficult Alicia had been throughout the trip, and he said that I wouldn't take her on a trip with me again. He insisted that none of what she did was that bad, but I insisted on speaking to Alicia's mom on the phone and telling her everything her daughter had done. She defended her daughter completely and insisted that everything she did was what teenage girls do. I was shocked, but after John and Leanne, his ex, spoke over the phone, he has been defending her too, insisting she's really nice if I get to know her and things like that. I've not said that I'll never be in the same room as her again. I've just said that I won't take anyone so badly behaved on holiday with me again. But John says that I'm overreacting, and that I should give her another chance, which I have no intention of doing. Update. Thanks for all these responses, they gave me a lot of food for thought. While I still stand by my decision and won't take Alicia on holidays unless John is there with me, a lot of people said that I haven't taken enough time to actually get to know my stepdaughter, which to be honest is true. But as said above, there are reasons for this. Even though she's a very smart kid, girls have to pass very difficult entry exams to go to that school even if their parents can afford it. I think there are better ways to bring out her potential than boarding school. It is of course Leanne's decision, but it isn't something that I'd have chosen for her or any of my kids. As some of the comments here have suggested, it is entirely possible she feels unloved and also unwelcome in our household, which isn't true at all, which is why I told John that I will make the effort to get to know Alicia properly, and actually suggested that we invite her here next time she's home from boarding, and hope to spend as much time with her as I can. I'm 36, mother of 2 girls, 9 and 5. I met my now fiancé, 38, 2.5 years ago. He's a good man, treats my girls well and loves them. Future mother-in-law is a generous lady, truth be told. His family are respectful and helpful. We visit them a lot. After we got engaged, I pretty much considered this my extended family. However, my mother-in-law tends to do things that either intentionally or unintentionally hurt my feelings. For example, when there's a family dinner at a restaurant, we're not invited. On Christmas, my girls didn't receive anything from her, while other kids in the family get gifts and cards. Also, all the kids in the family get a trip once a month, but my girls never participate. Mother-in-law excuses were, "I forgot." This week, my future mother-in-law was doing family photo album and was gathering family pictures from everyone. Sister-in-law and her kids, brother-in-law and his kids, and so on. She called and asked if I could send her some pictures. I thought that was nice of her. I sent them pretty much after my call with her ended. We were invited to her house. The entire family was there to look at the photo album because it was complete. We took turns to look at it, and when it was my turn and my girl's turn, I was stunned. Turned out, she picked the pictures that just had me and her son, not my girls. Although we took a ton of pictures, the four of us, my girls, were excited wanting to see the album, then asked why their pictures weren't there. I didn't even want to think about how they'd feel. I was caught off guard, otherwise I wouldn't have let them look at the album. I asked mother-in-law why she excluded my girls and she didn't even reply, she just ignored me. My fiancé stared at me. I felt awful. I got up, took my girls and walked out immediately. Everyone was confused. My fiancé followed us, then we left. At home, he told me that I really shouldn't have walked out before dinner and should have just ignored this whole thing because who cares about a stupid photo album? I told him it's a symbol of family. The girls felt left out when all the kids' pictures were there except for the girls, although I sent her pics of all four of us as a family. He said his mom didn't mean it and promised that this will change once we get married and said he'll get everyone in line. So I shouldn't even consider this a problem, and that my girls are the light of his life, and that's the only thing that matters, and that I was overreacting over a photo album. Mother-in-law called and was upset, saying me walking out like that was disrespectful to the entire family. When I told her about what she did, she bluntly said, "I don't want to lie to people. Those girls don't relate to me in any way." She said she loves them, treats them well, will host their birthdays if I weren't, but she won't call them family. I argued with her over this and I hung up on her since she didn't think she did anything wrong. Was I in the wrong? Did I overreact?